Hey everybody, it's Sam Amico with another edition of Hoops Wire Live here on 330 to go. I was just sitting here thinking during the countdown before the show, the first time I did this show, I was actually nervous. The whole show. I was terrified, which is funny because, I've been doing, as some of you may know and wonder how this ever happened, I've been doing television for 17 years and I'm just fine there. But I was just thinking here the first time I was terrified. You know why? Because I know that my mother and sisters and extended family and friends are all big 330 to go fans. So I think more of them would be apt to watch me here than they would on whatever television show I'm doing. So anyway, this is kind of our season finale and summer special all wrapped into one. As you know, the Browns are back in training camp, which is the best time to be a Browns fan because they don't have any games, so we can all be happy. And beyond that, there's, this is the point when NBA people, general managers, coaches, players have already started, scouts, all these people start going on vacation. Hopefully soon some NBA writers will as well. I'm hoping to take an extended break this year, which is hard when you're running a 24/7 website and you can't really, as the good folks at 330 to go will tell you, you can't really just say, you know what, I'm not updating it today. So anyway, that's where we stand. The Cavaliers, there's actually some stuff going on that I should recap. And I think the first of those was the Summer League. And we saw some, you can't take away too much from Summer League, but there are things that catch your eye. And one of the guys who really caught the Cavs' eye and the NBA's eye overall was Naquan Tomlin, who finished last season on a two-way contract. And, the Cavs are looking for another big guy as they go into the season, whether they still have a roster spot to fill. So they're going to fill like 6 or 7 because you're allowed to have 21 on your roster for training camp. And then you got to whittle it down to no more than 15 when the season starts, and you get 3 two-way guys. The Cavs have 2 of those two-way spots filled, and one's Naquan Tomlin. I'm sorry, Naquan. I'm trying to rush through your name. Naquan Tomlin is one of those two-way players, which means he can play in 50 NBA games, up to 50. The rest of the time will be in the G League. So if you're on a two-way deal, you're going to miss at least 32 games in the NBA. Naquan Tomlin played well enough in Summer League that I know that the Cavs are considering signing him to a standard contract. That's probably not going to happen before training camp. There are a couple other guys. They still have a two-way spot open. Enrique Freeman, who's not, he had a two-way offer with the Indiana Pacers that was pulled yesterday, not out of any kind of spite or anything, but the Pacers decided to sign their second-round pick. Enrique Freeman from Akron, of course, actually Cleveland native, went to University of Akron, wonderful guy, rookie last year with the Pacers. Really did a nice job in Summer League. He averaged 16.5 points a game and shot 75.6% from the field, which means out of every 10 shots he took in Summer League, and it wasn't like he took 3 shots a game. He was taking at least 10 shots a game. Out of those 10 shots, he averaged about 8 makes. So he missed like 2 shots a game in Summer League. Did a really nice job, averaged close to a double-double with rebounds. One NBA scout I talked to, interestingly, this scout works for the Pacers, said, the one thing that we want Enrique to do is extend his game further from the basket. Right now he's 6'7", and he's kind of a center, a natural center. And the scout I talked to said that's okay. He could be a Tristan Thompson type. Tristan's like 6'7.5", 6'8", and played center for a long time. So Enrique Freeman could be that potentially that kind of NBA player. Tristan, of course, the comparison being in his prime. So Enrique Freeman, I think, is a possibility in Cleveland for that final two-way deal. There hasn't been any contact between the Cavs and Enrique Freeman to this point, but I know that the Cavs, have kept an eye on him being a local kid. Tristan Enunora from Cleveland State is another possibility. He looked really good. He played for the Cavs in Summer League, and I think that he's a possibility for their final two-way spot. That's actually something that I've heard, that he would be in consideration for that final two-way spot. So, these are things that change all throughout the year. The two-way, the bottom of the roster, the end of the roster, those are all things that switch. And it's interesting because, people saw the Pacers letting Enrique Freeman out of his contract as kind of oh boy, that's a bad thing, when really it's not. Last year, the Cavs did the same thing with Pete Nance, if you remember. And then what this does is this would give an opportunity for Enrique to sign with another team and potentially go to another training camp where he may have a better opportunity at playing time. That's something that Enrique and his representatives will figure out before training camp in the fall. They'll figure out where the best place to sign is. I think he's personally going to go back to camp with the Pacers and then sign with their G League club. And then he would be free, while still in the Pacers organization, he would be free to sign with anybody. If you're under a two-way contract, you're only, like when he was under a two-way contract last season with Indiana, he could only be called up by Indiana. Well, we saw the same thing happen last year with Pete Nance and the Cavs. If you remember, the Cavs did not offer Pete Nance a two-way deal, yet he went to training camp with them and he played with the Charge, and that allowed him to get called up by the Philadelphia 76ers. So Pete spent some time with the Sixers, and then they didn't renew his two-way deal, and then he ended up the season on a two-way deal with the Milwaukee Bucks. And I wrote this on HoopsWire. The Milwaukee Bucks were the only team at the NBA Summer League, which all 30 teams were there, represented. They were the only team with two guys from Akron, from the 330, to start on their Summer League team. Pete Nance being one, Chris Livingston, of course, played at Akron Bookdale and Case Western Reserve's the college, Western Reserve Academy in Hudson. Chris Livingston played there, and I think that was it. He finished his senior year somewhere else. Then he went to University of Kentucky, played there a year, came out of Kentucky after his freshman year, got drafted by the Milwaukee Bucks. Chris Livingston, of course, is a Rich Paul client. So, in fact, I wrote something about Chris Livingston, what a scout said, which wasn't very flattering when Chris Livingston came out of college. It wasn't like super negative. It was just saying, I don't think he's ready for the NBA. And of course, I heard from Rich, and he said, scouts don't know everything. And I'm like, you know what, Rich, you're right. It's sports writers who know everything. He didn't respond, I don't think. Or he may have just ignored it and responded some other way. That's typically the way he acts. But he's always very nice. So Chris Livingston and Pete Nance, both in camp with the Milwaukee Bucks. I believe Pete's still on a two-way deal there. And Chris Livingston just signed a non-guaranteed deal. So they'll both be in camp with the Bucks, probably, spend a lot of their time with Wisconsin Herd of the G League. Yes, I need to get out more because I know G League team nicknames, all 30 of them. And the worst by far is the Portland Trail Blazers, the Rip City Remix. Actually, I take that back. The worst is probably the Washington Wizards, the Capital City Go-Go. What's that? Is that even PG? Anyway, moving on to the Cavaliers. We've heard some reports of Dean Wade. He's been in the rumors a lot. We had a story on HoopsWire late last night that if he is getting moved, it's not going to be anytime soon. There's not a ton of talks there. A lot of these things that will happen with guys like Dean Wade, who are viewed as great eighth men, right? Strong defender. That's pretty much he hasn't shot the ball well enough or enough at all to be considered much more than that. But a very fine perimeter defender. He's got length. He does a nice job on shooting guards and small forwards. He does a pretty good job at rebounding the basketball, and he's a good guy who, you know, if you have Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and say DeAndre Hunter out there, well, Dean Wade's the perfect fit offensively because he doesn't care if he shoots. He just has to take more shots because if he's with those other four guys, he's going to be the one who's open more often than not. So, you know, a lot of teams do like him. The Houston Rockets had a lot of interest in Dean Wade, still do. They would love him as a, you know, again, eighth, ninth man. It was just kind of an exploratory thing with the Rockets calling the Cavs. I don't believe the Cavs are calling other teams on Dean Wade, but they did get some calls. The Dallas Mavericks, we've heard, the Rockets. I know the Washington Wizards would love to get him. But, you know, wanting a guy and being able to work it out are two different things. So I think that Dean Wade most likely is going to start the year with the Cavs, but he's definitely potential trade chip. And, you know, trade chips tend to play out as the season goes on, right? I mean, last year, nobody thought George Niang and Karis LeVert were going to get traded. At least I didn't. But I knew that the Cavs were open to it. And, you know, Dean Wade is a guy who would be open to and is drawing a lot of interest. So, you know, in the Cavs search for a backup power forward center, is Naquan Tomlin that guy? Kenny Atkinson went on NBA TV during the Cavs Summer League game and said he's got a really good shot to be a regular part of our rotation. Speaking of Tomlin, is there, you know, there's interest there as far as I know in bigs like Thomas Bryant. If you get on HoopsWire, we have a whole list of, and I update it every night before I go to bed, of remaining available veteran NBA free agents by position. So there are definitely some centers on there. Obviously, I updated it. I did not memorize it. It's on our front page. So the Cavs are going to be exploring that list, but I think that they're also exploring, would it make sense to move Dean Wade and get one of those guys back who can relieve Jared Allen and Evan Mobley? That's one thing that they really want, is somebody they can count on to relieve their power forward and center. If you remember last season, Kenny Atkinson kind of had to platoon Jared Allen and Evan Mobley and keep one on the floor at all times because they didn't have what they considered a reliable third string center power forward type. They're going to solve that problem, they believe, before camp. It may be during camp. It may be early in the regular season. Right now, nobody's in a big rush to do anything. Everybody's going to take a breather in the NBA, except for your least favorite NBA writer. We'll continue to update the website. So please, other than my mother, who I'm trying to guarantee checks it daily, but I doubt it, please check regularly while I'm away from 330 to go. Well, actually, you know, I'm not really ever away from 330 to go, because if you notice under a lot of their posts, I have some amazing jokes. When they talked about weather boomers one time, there's some boomers moving in. I, of course, commented, what about Gen Xers, Gen Zers, and millennials? And that garnered 0 laughs. But I I thought it was funny. I showed the kids and they just rolled their eyes. And then, of course, there was the gentleman who was in Target. And that comment actually drew some laughs. I said, it's good to know that you can't just walk in to Target in the raw in advance. That's frowned upon. And I always know when it's funny when the 330 to go team acknowledges I said something. When they don't acknowledge my joke, then I'm like, maybe I should delete that before they delete me. Anyway, back to the Cavaliers. And I'm sorry I'm scratching my nose. I'll share that story in a second because it's worth hearing. But I have a scratch here that was bleeding profusely yesterday. And I'll explain how that happened. The Cavs, I think their roster's pretty much set for now. I think that, they're not going to move Jared Allen, Darius Garland. Certainly not going to move Donovan Mitchell or Evan Mobley. LeBron James is not coming back to Cleveland. That talk has died down. I mean, I never thought it was that real. I think that LeBron and the Lakers were both being passive aggressive toward each other. I think that's ended a little bit as we get, into vacation time and for the NBA and then, training camp. The one thing I would find interesting is LeBron still has not commented on any Lakers moves, which is unlike him. He commented on a Cavs move, at least one, right? Brandon Weems, his longtime friend, who's the Cavs assistant general manager, got a promotion and a raise with the Cavs, and LeBron put on social media, congratulating him and all that. And I thought that's totally innocent on the surface. That's just one of his good friends. But he has yet to comment on any move that the Lakers have made, whether that was signing DeAndre Ayton, whether that was signing Marcus Smart. LeBron's been radio silence, I believe is the term. But this has been an awkward shift for the Lakers and LeBron. And that's because the Lakers are transitioning now to Luka Doncic being the face of the franchise. And I think LeBron welcomes that. Don't get me wrong. But look, I think LeBron wanted a 2-year contract because he hit free agency this year. And the Lakers were like, And I think there was some difficulty there. The Lakers were like, just pick up your option. And you have a no trade clause. So, basically, if you want to get traded, you can determine where you go. So this is the type of things that happen to athletes who are on the back nine. It can be a difficult transition. LeBron's still a fantastic player, but, it's just not. He's not changing the course of your franchise if he goes there. Now, the Cavs, if you slid him into small forward, that would probably move them further closer to the championship, at least on paper. I'll tell you this, the Cavs think they can win it without him. So they're not going out of their way to do anything to get him. I don't know that they've done anything in that area. So they look at it like, we were 64-18 last year. The East now, because of the Jason Tatum injuries and Tyrese Halliburton injuries, those two guys out for the year, the East is more wide open than ever. And I think that you factor in, okay, we look at the Cavs, and to me, the New York Knicks are up there with former Cavs coach now Mike Brown as their new coach. They're going to have to adjust to that a little bit. It's not a huge deal. I mean, the Cavs adjusted just fine to Kenny Atkinson. I think the Detroit Pistons are going to be a team to watch. I think the Orlando Magic are going to be a team to watch. But everybody I've talked to in the NBA this offseason said, as things stand right now, the Cavs should come out of the Eastern Conference as constructed. So they're not looking to make a big splash. If they can guarantee a spot or really even increase those odds even more, they would do it. But I think the way they're going to do that is, hey, let's go out and get a big guy who can contribute. It's not going to be Kevin Love. It's not going to be LeBron James. It's not going to be somebody who 90% of you have ever heard of. It's only going to be probably a signing that, guys like me with no life have heard of, because we're paid to know everybody in the NBA. But that said, I wouldn't put anything past Kobe Altman. He went out and snuck in and got Donovan Mitchell, right? Donovan Mitchell was headed to New York from the Utah Jazz. That was going to be the deal. That's where Donovan Mitchell wanted to go. But Kobe Altman snuck in and made that trade for Donovan Mitchell. Was it two years ago now? Was it 3? Somewhere in there. Donovan Mitchell has played for the Cavs for 2 years. So, yeah. I don't know. They all run together. It's because I never stop. And I love it. I'm not complaining. I love it. But I think I do. This is the year that I let Ashish Mathur, our other writer, and he had some time off. I made sure he had time off. And I said, do not work for these next 5 days, which was right after the season. And let me tell you, it was not an easy task for me. So I'm going to do that to Ashish, take some time off. He's encouraging me to do it. And that's what I'm going to do on 330 to go. And I'm going to do it on the website here within the next probably 3 weeks. Anyway, you don't really care about any of that. As for the NBA, again, most people are going on vacation. I don't foresee any huge moves. I do find it interesting that bigger names like Russell Westbrook, Malcolm Brogdon, those are 2 of the guys that remain unsigned. They're also on the back 9 of their career. Where can they go to play a backup role, limited backup roles? The great thing about Brogdon, and I wouldn't even say this about Westbrook anymore, but Malcolm Brogdon, he can give you depth at the point guard spot. So if your starter gets injured for any length of time, you can fill in. Now, that's the idea with Lonzo Ball in Cleveland. Now the Cavs have Darius Garland, Lonzo Ball, Craig Porter Jr. I think Jalen Tyson has proven he can play the point in a pinch. He showed that Summer League. That's what the Cavs wanted to see. If we get into a pinch here, what can you do? And Tyson showed that he could run the offense. And I think Jalen Tyson, we're going to see a lot more of him this year. He's going to fill in and take, I believe, those Isaac Okoro minutes and maybe even get more minutes, depending on how he fares. But the Cavs have high hopes for him. First-round pick last year. Tyrese Proctor, the second-round pick this year that's going to be in Cleveland. He's not on a 2-way deal. So he's on a regular contract. Again, a guy who is probably going to play very limited minutes, probably get a lot of minutes with the Cleveland Charge, but there's going to be times where the Cavs need him. I think the Cavs' big change this year, the big change to me, other than Lonzo Ball, Jalen Tyson getting more minutes. Now, the Cavs did address that front court a little bit with Larry Nance Jr. Again, with Lonzo Ball and Larry Nance Jr., it all comes down to, can they stay on the floor? I think if you cut their minutes and they can give you 50 games apiece and then be healthy for the playoffs, that's gold. That's gold. So I do think what we see with the Cavs now is pretty much what we're going to see in training camp, with the possibility that Dean Wade could be moved before the season. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, because general managers, coaches, all of those guys are going to take August and just chill out. And then they'll have all of September to start talking again before camp. A lot of teams by middle of September are like, you know what? We like what we have right now. Let's go into the season, unless there's a major contract issue. I mean, last year we saw Karl Anthony Towns and Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo get traded in that big deal right before the season for between the Knicks and the Timberwolves. And interestingly, the Knicks got to the Eastern Conference Finals, and the Timberwolves got right back to the Western Conference Finals. So somebody asked me the other day for my NBA Finals prediction. as it stands right now, I went with the Cleveland Cavaliers and Minnesota Timberwolves. I think it's not to downplay the Oklahoma City Thunder's chance to be a repeat out of the West, because I think that they're favored. So, but I went out on a limb a little bit and picked the Timberwolves. I think that'd be a great finals if those two teams come back healthy. But the one thing I think that will change with the Cavs, I think this is just a gut feeling, is that DeAndre Hunter will be your starting small forward going into the year with Max Strus coming off the bench. I think that that's something that they want to sell Max Strus on. It's like, look, you're going to play as many minutes. The only difference is you won't be running out there at the start when they announce the starting lineups. That's the only difference. Guys in the NBA all want to start. So that's a hard sell, but I think that that's what the Cavs are going to try to do, is that gives them a little more length right off the bat. It gives DeAndre Hunter an opportunity, gives them more firepower. Although, Max Strus is fantastic outside shooter. I just think DeAndre Hunter is a little bit more of a two-way guy, a little bit more, and gives them a little more length. And then all of a sudden you're starting Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, and DeAndre Hunter in your front court. That gives you more size. And then the back court, of course, being Darius Garland when he's healthy. Sounds to me like he might miss the first week or two of the season with the toe injury. Again, they're not going to rush him back. The Cavs don't have any goals of going 15-0 again to start the season. So, but when healthy, obviously, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell starting, and then Strus, Sam Merrill, Larry Nance Jr., Lonzo Ball, and Jalen Tyson being your top five off the bench. So, maybe Dean Wade's in there. I don't know. Obviously, some of this is going to play out at practice, and when Kenny Atkinson gets a better idea of how his new guys fit in, and maybe Naquan Tomlin or whoever else the Cavs, another big whoever they sign. So that's what we're looking like in July, on July 25th. And I guess I know you're all dying to know how I got this scratch on my nose that you probably can't see, but again, was bleeding profusely yesterday. So my youngest son, Reese, has been wanting to go to the, what's the name of it? One of a kind pet adoption. We're looking for sponsors, by the way. It's in West Akron. It's one of a kind pet adoption. We've been going there. We've been looking at these cats and dogs, kittens and puppies. Well, one of the kittens, I'm just going to give you her name so you can be sure not to take her home. Her name is Jane. And we've been there twice in the past 3 days to visit with these pets. And Jane is crazy. She's 2 months old. She's really cute, but she was reaching out through the cage, and because she's trying to get your attention and she wants to play, well, in the process, she knocked over the sign outside of her cage with her name on it. And I reached in to try to pet her, and she's like scratching and biting me playfully. But insane. Just totally insane. Yes, that is true. I know that. Well, I'll get to that in a second. But I went to get Jane's sign to put it back up on the cage, and as I did that, she took a swipe at me and hit me right in the nose, and I was just like, "Oh, you're crazy." And then the woman next to me acted. She was there, very nice lady, and she says, "You're bleeding." And I went like this, and it was really bleeding. Like bad. She just got me right where, there's nothing there to protect you. It's just cartilage, right? And I was bleeding profusely. So I went to the back and I found some towels, and I was holding them up, paper towels, and wetted them and held them up. And it went on for like 5 minutes before it finally stopped. And there's another cat there, and there's 2 cats, and one is named Luna. And these are also 2 months old, and there's a third one named Ralph, and they're all under consideration. My youngest has already given Luna a name to take home, named Tostada. Where that came from, I don't know. But anyway, it's funny that 330 to go mentioned that comment. Don't do it. You'll take home multiple animals. Because I went in there and I saw these puppies, and I have no idea what kind of dogs they are. They're incredibly cute. There was four of them, and 3 of them were crazy. Like I would reach in to pet and they'd bite. They were biting each other. They were wrestling each other. But there was one that was just really calm, cool, calm, collected, let you pet it. And they were obviously brothers and sisters. And the one that was cool, calm, and collected, I thought, if I was to get a pet, that would be it. Because, you other 4, I can see why no one's adopted you yet. But this one needs to be adopted because the rest of them are like the Tasmanian devil around him. And he was just sitting there calmly waiting for us to pet him. And when we pet him, he didn't bite us. He was calm. And I thought, if I were to get a pet, it would be that dog and this cat. That would be I have 2 picks. It's always the one. Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Oh, boy. Yeah. Yeah. See, and I'm going to be suckered into getting something here, or probably 2 somethings, when there are already 2 cats at home. So, anyway, I'm sure that there's a lawsuit in there somewhere. I'm just kidding. Not against one of a kind, against Jane. Jane is going to pay for that. She'd be a wonderful cat to adjust to other cats because she fears nothing. Or if you have a dog, she'd be great. But that is what that is. Okay. I can't pronounce that word, and I'm sure I can't spell it either. But yeah, I encourage everybody to go to One of a Kind Pet Adoption Agency. I am sure I'll be there this weekend. And, well, my youngest tries to sucker me into getting cats, or one specific cat, and this cat is great. Her name's Luna, at least according to the Pet Adoption Agency. My youngest is here and yelling Tostada. Well, whispering Tostada. But if you hold her, she'll lie there. I have a favorite. His name's Ralph. He's 3 months old. He's fantastic. But anyway, so that's my rundown on the West Akron pet scene, which I'm sure you all tuned in to hear. And as far as the Cavaliers go, I wouldn't expect much coming up. There's all this Browns news. I wouldn't expect much coming up from them either. And I mean, like, well into the season. But maybe they'll surprise us. Maybe there'll come a time. What's it say? Officially endorses One of a Kind Pet Rescue. That is right. That is right. Absolutely go there. And take home like 7 pets. I don't know how many they let you take home. But that's how many I would take. Yes, don't bother me during Browns games because I'm usually mad. It's very rare that I'm excited during a Browns game. Well, I'm excited to watch, and then we know what happens from there. I usually am super optimistic. I can't even say the word when it's related to the Browns anymore. I'm usually super optimistic when it comes to Cleveland Browns going into the season. This is the year they're going to surprise us. They're going to go 10-6. They're going to go, well, now they play 17 games. So they're going to go 11-6 or 10-7, get in the playoffs, and maybe have a little bit of a run. This is going to be the year. I have none of that this year. So maybe this is the year it happens. There's a little optimism. But, I mean, they have 5 quarterbacks. When you have 5 quarterbacks, that means you have none. I love Joe Flacco. I'm excited to see what Dylan Gabriel and Shadur Sanders, and who knows, maybe Kenny Pickett will get his act together. Who knows? But you don't want to go into the season at this point when training camp started saying, who knows? Who knows who's our quarterback? Who knows who's the most important position on the team? All right. Well, I've talked your ear off. But, on the bright side, while I talked your ear off, at least you didn't get bloody cat scratch and probably going to get cat scratch fever. And it's all downhill from there. Anyway, visit One of a Kind pet adoption agency. Visit hoopswire.com. Those are your instructions for the rest of the summer. And I will be back with you, assuming they allow it here at the wonderful 330 to go. I'll be back with you, I guess, probably in September sometime. So enjoy the rest of your summer. Thanks for tuning in, and we will talk to you soon. I think this is the same shirt you wore.